Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Knoxville Business Growth Collaborative. I'm Rita Thomas. I'm your funnel godmother. That's why I have a crown. And every month we bring you exciting information about business systems, how to run your business, how to automate things. And this month it's about how to plan, promote, and execute your own event. We have amazing event planners here as our instructors, Elyse Large and AJ Koekenberg with Destination TN. And I'm going to turn it right over to them. They've got some slides and some great information for you today. Thanks for being here.
Hi. All right. Yeah, I was going to say, Rita, I'm going to move your screen down. Ooh, yeah. Go up a little. No, just kidding. Nice to meet everyone on the screen. Nice to meet everyone in here. We're super excited to be here and tell y'all about event planning for your small business and how it can help you, and then the steps to take to get it started on planning, execute, and market, very important, your events so you can get everyone you need there. So a little bit about us. Ta-da. I'm Elyse Large, as we said. I graduated from UT. I had a major in entrepreneurship and a minor in hospitality, and then went on to work what I thought at the time was lots of jobs. But now looking back, it was lots of experience. So I've done events from every different angle. I started in catering. I've been in hotels, corporate, nonprofit. So a little bit of everything. I traveled the US for a while doing events in different places. So a little bit of a well-rounded experience that I get to bring that to my clients now.
And my name's AJ Koekenberg. I'm a mom of a 3-year-old sassy little girl. So I spend lots of time chasing her around. When I'm not doing that, I'm a wedding planner. It's what I'm most passionate about. But before that, I was a general manager for a wedding venue and also a marketing manager for a hospitality company. They had 3 restaurants and 2 bars. So did tons of events for them, weekend events and, marketing for all those things. So loved that, but weddings are what I'm most passionate about. So I had to come back to weddings for sure. So we're going to talk about, like she said, planning, marketing, and executing, and we'll let Elyse start it off with planning.
All right. So planning is arguably the biggest step, the most important step. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't start with a plan. So we're going to be talking about, I put them in order of what I think are most important and how you'll best set up your events. So our first one is to pick a theme. And I don't mean like it doesn't have to be an 80s theme or a masquerade ball or anything like that. Your theme can be simply what you want to accomplish from the event. So what's the goal for why you're throwing this event? What do you want people to get out of it while they're there? What do you want to make sure they go home with? What kind of experience do you hope that they get? And what do you want out of the event? So there's a few different options for that. We'll touch on them later, but it could be small businesses throw events to attract prospective customers, build relationships with their current customers, or you can throw an event for your own employees to show them appreciation. So starting with the theme is the most important because that's going to guide your decisions for everything else. And then probably next most important and probably the hardest one is the budget. So if you're the business owner, you know how much money you have and how much you're willing to spend on this event, but you may not know what categories to spread that money out in. And so that's where your budget's going to help guide you along the way. So my best advice is to pick the 2-3 most important things that you want to have for this event. So maybe it's your venue, maybe it's the entertainment, maybe it's the swag everyone goes home with, but you know what's most important for your event. And so start with those budget items. Start picking the item that you want and getting a cost for that, and then you can fill that in. And then as you go past that, you can kind of estimate the other categories, and then that'll round out your whole budget process. So that's keeping you on track. Your budget is the most important. It is something you want to keep referring to as you go along, but the starting point is, don't think of it as the whole budget. Just pick those couple things that you think are most important and worry about those, and the rest will kind of fall into place as you go through. And then next important is the date for your event. So there's holidays all the time. My house is for sale and we wanted to do an open house. We picked this last Sunday and then remembered it's Mother's Day. So it's important to look at the calendar before you go planning an event, because there are things that are going to happen and they may not just be big holidays. There could be a citywide event in your city. Knoxville used to be known for Destination Imagination, which took over the whole city. There were no hotels, there were no venues, there were kids all over the place. If you're throwing a totally adult event, it may not have been the right time for that. So take a look at your city's calendar before you pick a date. And also keep in mind your competitors. So you don't want to fight your competitors for if you're both having an event on the same day. Then you're going to make your audience choose, and that's not necessarily what you want. Even if you are competitors, you could both be good at something the same way or in a different way, and so you don't want to make someone pick one over the other. So keep those things in mind. And of course, we're here in Knoxville, so sports are huge. Maybe don't pick a UT football game day. That's not going to work out well. And with that, then the next most important would be venue. You'll go back to look at what you picked for your theme for the event, what you thought was the most important, and then use that as you look for a venue. If you are doing an 80s party, maybe the roller skating rink, to rent that out. That would be a cool place for that. But if you're doing an 80s party, maybe an upscale dining facility is probably not going to be the atmosphere for that. So keep in mind your theme when you're looking for a venue, but then also keep in mind how that venue is going to work with the activities that you have planned. If you're going to have axe throwing and pony rides, you probably want to be outside somewhere. You don't want to pick somewhere indoor, which I know those are simple things to think about, but just kind of getting your mind around what's happening at this event and how you want things to flow. If you're expecting thousands of people, you need to think of the flow of traffic at that event or at that venue as you're picking it, because you don't want to end up with people bottlenecked in one area. So keeping a bunch of things in mind while you're looking for your venue, and also somewhere that, you know, if it's a fun event, it's a fun venue. And so those are the 4 top most important. These next ones are kind of fill-in items for when you're planning. But like I said, planning is the biggest part of this. And so it is going to take the most time, the most looking ahead. So the next then is your vendors. They all kind of stack on each other, which is why I put them in order like this. The vendors will depend on what your theme is, what venue you went with, your budget, all that sort of stuff. So when you're looking for vendors, keeping those things in mind, but then also looking at vendors' Google reviews or people that you know that may have used them. Make sure it's a reputable vendor that's going to follow through on what you're looking for in the way that you're looking for it to happen. And then, of course, make sure that they match your goal for the event. If you're looking for something high energy versus laid back, or an upscale feel versus just something like fun and easy like hot dogs instead of grilling out at a pig roast, something like that. So keeping those things in mind as you're looking for your vendors. Then logistics, which we kind of touched on some of that with venue. So keeping in mind the flow of the event, how you want your day to start, when people will arrive, where they'll go to check in or register, what's the next step for them to go through, where the vendors are going to set up, how you're going to have that staged throughout your venue. And then the amenities, which this is one of my pet peeves. Make sure there are enough trash cans. If you don't want to walk around at the end of the event picking up trash off the floor, off of windowsills, that was your fault to begin with. You got to make sure there's enough trash cans there for the group. Making sure there's enough restrooms or parking or staff on site. Those are all the logistical things that you'll need to think through as you go through this. If you're going to do something that has prizes or announcements, you want to, as you're going through the venue or linking through your plan, make sure you're thinking about a place to do those or how the sound will carry through the event. And all these too, I know this sounds like a lot to think about, but all this too is something where you can hire somebody like us to come in and help you. So I do have to plug that. We think of all these things as we go through, but it's helpful for you if you don't want, or if you can't afford to have a planner from beginning to end. You'll know these things to think about as you're going through. And so you can go ahead and pick your venue and your vendors, and then maybe just bring someone like us in for the day of coordination. And having a clear, to finish out logistics, having a clear call to action for what you want to happen from your event. So like here today, we have these QR codes because we want to make sure everyone here registered so we can capture that information, which is a lot of what business events are about, capturing information. So having that accessible for people that are there, having these QR codes, having, if you did a drawing or a prize, being able to fill out a little card with your information maybe. Or maybe all you want is for people to post the photos and tag your business or do a hashtag. Make sure that information is displayed where people can see that and that they know that that's what you're wanting to happen from this event. And that would keep it all streamlined. If people go to an event and they don't know your tag on Instagram and you don't put it anywhere, they're probably not going to find you. If you've ever posted something on Instagram and then hit the @ button and tried to guess at what you're tagging, you can get the wrong one. You may not get it. And most people just give up and post their picture and are excited for their friends to see what they did. But if you want their friends to know that you did it, make sure your information is out there and visible. I feel like I'm talking the whole time. This one's a long one. So then we have details. This one's actually pretty easy to fill in. The details are what you can do after you've already made your plan for all the big stuff. So it could be maybe you thought you wanted to hand out shirts, but you didn't know if you could until you get all the way through your budget. So filling in those details, or filling in where people will be on the day of, or things like that. And like for an event I had some money left at the last minute, and it was in a hotel, and I got magnets made to put on everyone's door when they came in. So once you get to the end is more likely when you'll be able to figure out those small details, the little touches you want to add to the event. And then creating your timeline. This takes some time, and it needs to be detailed to make sure that you're on track for the day, you're not forgetting anything, and that for me, it's to get everything out of my head, because otherwise I'll sit up all night thinking about every little detail. If I get it on paper, then I feel good about it. So when you're creating your timeline, depending on the size of your event, you may want to start out 3 days before the event starts with things that you need to make sure happen. We have an event coming up in June, and we'll have to go to Chattanooga to pick up costumes. So that would be the first thing on my timeline. It's 2 days before. We want to make sure that that gets done. So you would start with the first thing that you'll have to do for this event, and then go through the timeline. And your timeline should be very detailed. For the most part, it is just for you to read, but when you're in the thick of an event and you're running it, you don't necessarily remember all those little details you wanted to make sure got taken care of while you're there. Or you don't want to question yourself and say, was the speaker supposed to be here at 2 or 2:30? And then you're going to stand outside waiting at them at the wrong time and waste 30 minutes of your day or more. So it's very important to have that timeline. And then you can make additional timelines for the vendors or the venue so that they just see what's important parts for them and don't have to comb through your whole timeline. But the most important part of that is getting it all down on paper so that you have it with you and you can see it. And even if you don't stick to it, which is most likely what will happen, you've got the information there and you know what's supposed to happen that day. And maybe you look through it while you're figuring things out and you remember something that you would have otherwise forgotten.
And to add to that, I'm a wedding planner, so detailed timelines are like my everything. If I don't have a detailed timeline, then like I can't do a wedding day. Most of the time, I make it to where if I am not the one reading it, someone else could still coordinate the wedding the same way I would have. So just keep that in mind when you're making your timeline. So you know, like if something happens and I am not able to be there, someone else could still pull this event off.
Yes.
So now we're going to switch into marketing. So marketing is just like building a buzz and creating engagement around your event. Harnessing the power of social media and email marketing. What's email anymore, right? I mean, I know like it's that thing that we get notifications for on our phone that like sometimes we check, maybe we don't. Email to me is great for your people who are patrons, who know your business, who have used you before, their clients in the past, things like that. But as far as reaching new people, probably the best way to reach new people is going to be social media, which I feel like all of us know that by now. So these are just some statistics that we have for you about like small businesses hosting events and like what the outcome of those were. So 68% of B2B marketers say that most lead generations come from events. So that's people like if you were having an event out in Market Square, just walking by, giving you their information, being interested in what you're doing out there. 70% of users become regular customers after an experiential marketing event. So they come, they had a great time, and they become lifelong customers of yours. 95% of marketers believe events have a significant impact on achieving primary business goals. So if you have primary business goals that maybe, you're not going to hit your goal for this quarter or something like that, maybe host an event before the end of the quarter to help you make those final sales or hit those final goals. So social media platforms, obviously Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I have not been on LinkedIn in so long, but it's a great place for small business people to stay connected. I know that like all the entrepreneur groups and things like that post on there and host events, and we'll post those on there. So definitely check that out. On Facebook, you can create an event. When you create an event, anybody who says that they are interested in coming to that event will be notified anytime you post anything. So if you create an event like a few months out and just kind of get the word out, hey, we're going to have this event in a few months, and then start posting, it's a month out, it's 2 months out, whatever, people will get that anytime that you post that. If they have said they're coming or they're interested, they'll get a notification. So that's a really good way to kind of get your people engaged. Plus, I feel like event is kind of like a group on Facebook. So it kind of makes your people feel more like they can get involved. You could ask questions about, what kind of activities they might want to see at the event, to get people engaged and kind of hear what their response is, what they might be interested in. Compelling content creation. So that's going to be back to like finding your theme, finding what the purpose of this event is, thinking about what your brand is and how you can make the two work together to really have a compelling or to like compel to your audience that you want to come to the event. So develop engaging posts, stories, and visuals to capture attention and generate excitement. So I was showing Rita earlier, I bought this equipment off Amazon. Maybe there's not even $90 in all this and the microphones. The lighting is just because when you go in some places, lighting is not great. So I felt like I needed extra. I just feel more comfortable holding my phone like this than with my hands trying to, go all over the place. So just something like this, or even just a stabilizer, is really all you need to get really good content for your social medias. That way you can start sharing about not only your business, but the events that you're planning and things like that. Targeted advertising. So leverage social media advertising tools to reach specific demographics and increase event visibility. So I'm sure we all know how you can like adjust an ad to these certain demographics that you want. So think about when you're planning an event, who do I want to come? Is it, teenage girls and their moms? Or is it middle-aged motorcycle guys, because those are definitely going to be two different demographics. You're going to want to gear your marketing towards the different, directions. And then you can also use the Facebook marketing to kind of help go through those demographics for you. Community engagement. Foster a sense of community by encouraging interaction, discussions, and user-generated content. So encourage your people, if maybe this is a yearly event, if people have photos or videos from last year's event, to share it on this year's event, like show us how good of a time you had last year, show these people what they'll be missing out on if they don't come to this one. So just something like that, just good ways to kind of get people involved and excited about the event that you're hosting. So email marketing campaigns. I've not done a ton of email marketing. My generation, I feel like email is like, do we need it? Maybe, I don't know. So I'm not super experienced with that, but I know that if you, like I said earlier, if you have a clientele that has been, what's the word I'm looking for, loyal to you and has been one of your people for years and years, then that is a great way for you to stay in communication with them. Newsletters, just kind of keep them updated, things like that. That way you can send them out, hey, we're doing this event next month, or, stuff like that. Call to action. So in your marketing on social media, if you want them to register for the event, put that in the post. Register for this event here. If you want them to, sign up for a giveaway for the event, put that in the post. Make it a clear call to action, kind of back to what Elyse was saying. You think about your theme, you think about what you want to happen. Most of the time it's lead capture, information gathering. So post it loud and proud, like this is what we want you to do. Analytics and optimization. Track metrics and analyze campaign performance to refine your marketing strategies and improve results. So like on Facebook, you can even do you can run 2 different ads and or you can say, let's do this wording this way and this wording this way and see what works best. You can kind of do experimentally that with almost anything, If me and Elyse go out and she's handing out flyers, we can say, okay, you say this, and then I'll say this, and we'll see what works better for our company. So you can kind of try things that way. Don't be afraid to try new things when it comes to marketing, because the worst that's going to happen is they're going to say no. The best that's going to happen is they're going to become a customer or a client for you, and or tell somebody else about your company, and that's even better, So all those things, marketing-wise, can definitely help you pull off your event.
Yes. So then after you've planned it and marketed it, that sounds funny. The next step is to actually execute it, to get that event done. So with execution, we've got communicate, and over-communicate. It's so important to make sure everyone else is on the same page as you during that day. Like we mentioned, the timeline, having a copy for vendors versus your copy, that can just make sure that everyone is on the same timeline for the day. They know what's supposed to happen when. Doesn't always guarantee they read it or that they go through with it. But if you've given them the information, that's a much greater probability than if they didn't know to begin with. So communicating with the venue, when people are going to get there. You'd hate for someone to come and be able and want to start setting up, and the venue doesn't even open until an hour later than you told someone to get there. So just communication all around is what will make everything smoother. Sometimes you think you've said the same thing 3 times. It's that 4th time someone needs to hear it. So it's okay to say the same thing over and over, especially on the day of the event, to make sure that everything goes smoothly. We're back to logistics on the event. This is pretty much following your timeline. You've done all the work in the planning section. That's why it was most time consuming, most important, because on the day of, you just go through that timeline. You do the steps that you set up for yourself and make sure that everything flows as best as it can. And that detail management falls right in there as well. You know what's supposed to happen because it's on your paper. So these things all just back up what you've done in the planning section, and then therefore you can execute your event to the best of your ability. On day of logistics, again, you're following your timeline, but on the day of is when everything's going to start coming together. So that leads into our next bullet point, which is stay flexible. Everything that you're doing on the day of, you made your plan for, and you've set that goal for yourself, but that doesn't always happen. So you make sure you stay flexible with what's going to happen throughout the day. That's the biggest downfall for some people, because you spent so much time planning and putting that plan in place, and then it's not going to follow that plan. But you need to just go into that event knowing it. You've done everything you can to make sure that it does follow those steps and everything come in on time. But for the most part, you're going to have something that doesn't, and being flexible is what will make the event a success in the end. If you're flexible as something comes up, no one even knows that it came up. No one even knows that there was an issue. But do have a plan for major issues that could happen. You don't even have to put it on paper, but at least have given it some thought. So if you are having an outdoor event, what are you going to do if there is weather? Do you have a weather backup place for people to go? Or do you have tents on call that you can make the decision for the day before if you think you need to put those up? At least give those things some thought. What if your speaker, his flight gets delayed and you have to shift your whole agenda? Well, if you've thought about that, you know what will happen in case of that. And if there, let's heaven forbid, has a fight break out in your crowd, don't get caught off guard. Know what might happen. Have security on standby. Have the number for the police department in your phone already. Whatever you think those steps need to be should something like that happen. And then executing for the follow-up, which is what all of this event was for. Whatever your goal was, your theme you picked in the very beginning, that's what you want to make sure happens at the end. So if it was that call to action, if it was a sign put up for people to start following you on Instagram, or putting their information in the iPad as they come in, whatever that was, now you have to do something about it because you captured that information. So now you'll do something about it. Add them to your email list. You go find them on social media. Make sure that you can go through and look at all your tags on social media if that's what you ask people to do, and then reshare those so that people see, oh wow, people came to this event. This looked like it was really fun. They put it on their radar that they want to come next year. Or maybe that was your goal, was to get sales from this event. So what does that look like for you? That's where the follow-up's important. After the event's over, take a day or two because you're going to be tired. Even if it was a small coffee for people, you've thought through so much, you're going to be tired for the next day. But make sure it's on your calendar to do your follow-up for whatever it was that you were trying to accomplish from this event. All right. If anyone has questions, here's our information, or we're here right now.
Yeah.
So, what's the funniest thing or worst thing that ever happened at a wedding for you?
Oh gosh. Okay, well, I did have a fight at a wedding one time. It was kind of a hot mess family to begin with, which I've dealt with many of those. We love them. I mean, they're just normal these days. So the bride had a sister who had some sons, and the groom had an uncle, and apparently they were not getting along too well. So in the groom's room, there was a brawl that broke out. My dad was there as security, so he stepped in. The ambulance was called, the police were called. So
I know.
it was very interesting. That's the craziest thing I've ever had happen. But I mean, there's so often cakes just, oh, I thought it was tomorrow and things like that. So we've got to try to scramble and like go to the nearest food city and get some sheet cakes.
Yeah.
Yes, get those people some cake.
So what about you? You mostly do corporate events.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any funny things that happened at corporate events?
I have been so lucky to have the best groups. So I haven't, but my biggest issue that normally comes up is there's usually someone in the group that is we'll say not important, that thinks that they are important. So that's always my biggest thing. There's a wife of somebody who wants to come tell you that the light bulb is out in the women's restroom, like you can do anything about it. So managing that.
People are great.
Yeah.
People are great. Tell us some more stories.
Well, do you guys have any questions,
Hello.
or do you have events that you are like thinking about planning for your business yourself? I mean, I know you always are planning events, so.
Yeah. What about you? Did you think of anything while we were talking that you think would be helpful for everyone else to know too? Putting you on the spot.
Just so the follow-up, I think, is really having that email, tracking the customers that come,
Yeah.
reaching out to them and staying in touch in the newsletters, so you can always stay in front of them. I guess the more you stay in front of them,
Yep.
between events, the better it is.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's where the email marketing comes in. And if you can get them to follow you on social media, obviously they're going to see you there too. But like you said, sending a newsletter and like letting them know what your company's up to and what they can look forward to and stuff, I always feel like is definitely helpful.
Yep.
And actually, I'll jump in
Yes.
between you because then
Yeah, both of them will pick you up.
So speaking of the email marketing, that is my forte and what I usually teach on. And so it fits hand in glove with the planning, execution, and promoting the event, mostly promoting the event. So there's, like she was telling us, entire hundreds of thousands of people that don't check their email. People have said to me, don't send me email, I won't check it. Oh, okay. So don't just rely on email. And by the same other hand, make sure you email everyone. Because you can't tell by looking at them who wants to receive information by email. And they're looking for it, especially if there's a map involved, where to park, special instructions, what to bring. When I have outdoor events, this is what the weather forecast is. A lot of people are hungry for that information and they're looking for it, and they're going to look in their email because it's too much to put on social. It's too much to put in text. But definitely also text people. There's, again, those same 100,000 people that don't want emails are probably they want a text.
Yeah.
They rely on their text messages. If they don't get a text from you, they're not going to remember about your event. And by the way, people are constantly bombarded with thousands of bits of information constantly, and some of it is important to them, and they will forget that they did want to go to your event if you don't remind them. So you're not going to be harassing them or annoying them unless you harass them and annoy them. So don't message them 6 times in one day, 3 days in a row, right? Don't do that. But definitely a pattern that I like is once it's a month out, then 2 weeks later, then when you're within a month, then once a week for sure. Within that last week, maybe 3 times that week, send them a reminder. And it's not just a reminder. You can say, this is what we're going to do, or remember this. This is an attraction.
Share a different bit of it.
Something, and the day before, the morning of, and an hour before, and sometimes 15 minutes before, if it's something like a Zoom meeting or something like that. Because you're sending them information, but hundreds of other people are sending them information as well. And they really want to come to your event. So make sure they remember it, because they'll feel really bad if they miss it. And so don't worry that you're going to annoy them unless, like I said, you send literally way too many messages.
Unless you're being annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one great way to use text is to say, hey, there's some great information I just sent you in your email about this event. Then the people who don't even like email, they will go, oh, okay, and they'll just go right then and check it and find out what's going on. So that's a really great way to use text.
Yeah, and that goes with that over communicate too. Over communicate to the people that are coming to your event, because the more information they have, like you said, parking or weather, the more comfortable they'll feel coming to your event. They don't have to. Some people wake up and they're like, well, I don't really know where to park. I couldn't find it, so I just won't go. But if you've taken care of that by giving them all the information, they're more likely to attend.
And think about it. There was a movie about an airport or an airplane. It was a funny movie, really stupid humor. But part of it was with this red zone and white zone. The red zone is for loading and unloading only. But just think about that when you're communicating. You're saying something important. It's brief. You're saying it many, 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 many times. And they'll internalize it and they'll remember it, and it won't annoy them. Like, you've been to an airport before. You've heard that same recording over and over. You can tune it out after a few minutes, and they might tune you out, but you're still going to get in their eyes and in their ears, and it's going to help them remember what you're saying. So keep it brief, keep it only what's important, and repeat that message enough times that they're going to feel comfortable and confident to attend your event and have a great time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So we're going to stop the live stream and make sure you put any questions you have in the comments, and we'll answer them just as quick as we can. Yeah, I always found that right